Hey there and welcome back to another Dragon Prince video. And a couple of months ago, we saw the long-awaited release of the 4th season of The Dragon Prince, and the response was mixed. You know, I'm not going to say that there was nothing good about the season or the entire fandom hated it relentlessly, but there were definitely a lot of issues and a lot of complaints. And yeah, I really could make a number of videos talking about the season's various different problems, but there's one above all else that I found the most egregious. The Callum and Rayla storyline. And it's like, just why? How can you take something that was going so well and butcher it so completely? I mean, god damn it. But yeah, enough complaints. Let's get some backstory and context to set the scene. Right from the get-go, right from the very start of Season 1, it's been clear that the endgame pairing, or the major endgame pairing, was going to be Callum and Rayla. You know, right? Literally from their first couple of interactions, it was very, very, very clear this was going to be the case. And indeed, over those first couple of seasons, they successfully fostered the classic enemies to friends to lovers trope. And it was written quite well. They start off not liking each other all that much, more acting like allies of convenience, sharing the same goal. The lads want to return the egg to the Dragon Queen, and so does Rayla. And over the course of their travels, they go through numerous life and death situations, learn to trust in one another, and become fast friends with some healthy banter. And this banter quickly picks up romantic undertones. And eventually it culminates with a will they won't they type thing, which in turn leads to a kiss, and eventually a sweet little relationship. After this they have some brief ups and downs, until Callum uses the power of love and devotion to figure out how to use magic all by himself without using dark magic or a primal stone. And he saves Rayla and Viren dies and they both say I love you and it's all good. Happy ending. Hooray! Hopefully nothing comes along to completely ruin the story arc, right? Right? So yeah, at this stage, the ship was pretty decently huge already in the fandom, quite popular, and a big part of the character's appeal was their arc. After all, it was a massive part of both Callum and Rayla's individual storylines. The trigger had been pulled, and now the ship was sailing hard after 3 seasons of build, but then typical writerism started to creep into the story. In a book tie-in, you need to read in order to fully grasp some of the arcs in the later season, which... every time I remember this, I get pissed off. I mean, stop it. Don't do shit like that. Why? If you're going to develop a really integral plot point, make sure the majority of your audience is actually going to see it. Don't put it in a tie-in that hardly anyone's actually going to buy, because people are going to be confused, and then deeply annoyed. But yeah, besides that, the actual plot point itself was annoying as all hell. And as a classic sign of weak writing. It's like the writers don't know how to inject drama into a character arc without breaking characters up and resetting them to where they were at the beginning. And so, they cheapen the story. As we spend all this time building up this huge romance arc, only for it all to get tossed out, and then we have to start again. Only this time, it's more angsty. I mean, healthy and happy relationships can have dramatic stakes and tension. It feels like the writers just never seem to know where to go next. Like the whole romance arc revolves around the build, the journey, and so when they arrive at that point, they panic. They don't know where to take things, and they simply want drama. And so, they can force a reset, even if it is kind of stupid. And honestly, it feels also out of character. Like seriously, she goes off on a Viren hunt, and yet for some reason, that isn't very well explained at all in my opinion, this means she has to dump/abandon Callum. I mean sure, that makes sense, right? Right? Your new boyfriend, the wizard, who would be very useful fighting a dark wizard. Whew, let's leave him behind though, and not speak to him for years. I mean, he only saved her life fighting him originally. What was she going to do against Viren if she found he was still alive? She'd just straight up die. Stupid. And it makes me very sad that modern writers seem to think that this is what a compelling relationship looks like. Sweet build, and then destroy it all. Ugh. What are their personal lives like if this is the case? But yeah, don't get sidetracked too hard. We arrive at the season, and already they've sabotaged one of the better written storylines of the show's first major arc. But that being said, there was still time to salvage things to prevent it feeling like a pointless character regression, and to keep both their personal arcs flowing smoothly. But yeah, that doesn't happen. Not at all. Instead, the show seems to double down on bad decisions and just makes everything even worse than it was beforehand. There are some very vague discussions about how Rayla left and how Callum's been sad about it for like 3 years, that she left on his birthday. I mean, what the hell? But yeah, there's still no real explanation from her character as to why she needed to leave. It just feels like a bit of a dropped storyline. And so suddenly, their separation's even more stupid. Why didn't she come back? And there's really no adequate reason that's provided within the show itself. They just don't explain it. And it's very frustrating, because they could have explained a lot of it away via good writing, or even half-decent writing. But they just ignore it, expecting that she'll seem both reasonable and sympathetic. But instead, this, and the fact that she seems incapable of understanding why Callum's even upset with her, why he won't let it go, goes to combine and makes a character that was once warm and kind seem cut off and callous and honestly kind of cruel. And at times it really does feel a bit like character assassination. And I don't think this was the intention. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was the opposite. Based on what I've seen in the season, I'm pretty sure that we, the audience, are supposed to sweep things under the rug too. Or at least that feels like the expectation from a writing point of view. And instead, you're also kind of supposed to think that Callum's being a little bit unreasonable. That he had a legit reason to be upset, but now he should move on. But, that's not what happened. It's absurd the narrative frames itself like that. It makes him seem bitter and resentful instead of understandably upset that he was abandoned by his girlfriend for 3 years. No contact, no nothing. Just, happy birthday, now I'm going to ditch you in the middle of the night. Ciao. Beyond that, throughout the majority of the joint arc this season, their issues are hardly addressed at all, other than Callum being upset, and nothing much really gets resolved other than them coming to a sort of truce about the whole thing. But narratively, it wasn't very satisfying at all, and it was very confusing as to where they're going with the story in general and what happens next. And worst of all, they didn't even get back to where they were by the end of the season. And yeah, maybe that would have felt rushed, but in my eyes, it's a far better alternative than sitting through their original arc. But this time, they're just older, and the writing's not as good. And on top of that, it feels stale as it's largely a rehashed story. Come on. It's just so damn frustrating, because prior to this season, this particular story thread was, in my eyes, one of the better written arcs of the show. But here, it just feels like it's been squandered at every turn in pursuit of cheap drama, in pursuit of a chance to simply retread old ground, instead of actually working to create an interesting and engaging storyline with their ongoing relationship at the center of things. And yeah, it's disappointing, because it's clear from the first seasons that the writing team does know how to do this, how to make it very compelling. They knew how to build from the ground up a really popular ship for the fandom to rally around. So many fandoms have wildly popular alternate ships that challenge the main pairing and often end up more popular with fans. But here, they already had their Hail Mary, their great ship, wildly popular, fan art, fan fiction, all that sort of shit. And yet, they've somehow squandered it. How? They've snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And I can't help but sit here and just shake my damn head. And yeah, there's really not much else to say. I don't think it's ruined forever, but my god, they really did bungle it this season, hey? And so with all that being said, these were just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of Rayla and Callum this season? Think it was a bit of a fail? Or maybe I'm being too overly harsh? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know.